Hello, my name's Nicole Hartley Bradford, and I'm here to make a confession of sorts, and it and to tell a story. And somehow where it begins is as many of you who know me know, and as many of you who have been following me may be surprised to hear. I don't know how much I've talked about it. I grew up in a liberal church, a liberal Christian church. I was I was I was taken as a very new baby to be baptized into the community of Christ Church Cranbrook, an Anglican church. If you're from England, you would call it Church of England. If you're from the United States, you would call it the Episcopal Church. And I was a Sunday school goer, a children's choir member. I became a server. I became a reader, one of the people who reads the scriptures during the service. And a server is someone who is alongside the priest, getting things done up at the front. Mm. And I was even in my teenage years when a lot of kids stop going to church. I became involved in the British Columbia youth movement for the Anglican Church of Canada, and I became the youth delegate to synod. So I was elected by the diocesan youth, which means that the church I went to and the other churches in the area who were kind of connected under a bishop voted me as the youth as their representative to synod is when a group of uh, clergy and lay people get together in a diocese and make decisions and have time together. And I definitely remember going once to synod, and I may have gone more times, but for a period of time I would make regular plane trips to the diocesan's office for the diocese I was a church member in, uh, for meetings. So so that all happened and ended around when I was maybe 17 years old. I did not get confirmed in my faith. Confirmation is a step that a lot of people take in their teenage years, where the kind of dedication that was made on their behalf when they were baptized as an infant to be a member of this faith is confirmed. And my parents um, let me know that they wanted me to go to the confirmation education classes, but that it would be up to me whether I chose to get confirmed or not. And my mom was letting me know just not very long ago that when they gave me that choice, my mom got a lot of slack from the mothers of the other of my peers in that group of kids, uh, for not insisting that I get confirmed. And my mother's response to that was, if she's doing it because I make her, then she's not confirmed. And I remember being grateful and having a taste that it was a big deal for her to give me authority over my own declaration of, of faith or lack thereof. I was grateful about that. I did have some tricky experiences when I was on the youth staff of Anglican church camp for a summer. I won't go into that, but what I took out of that experience was kind of, uh, in addition to some of the things that I'd noticed starting at quite a young age. I remember being short enough that when I looked up at the grown-ups after church going to coffee hour, that I would look quite sharply up. And I remember listening to them and being appalled And I don't think I said it out loud, but thinking, like, didn't you just hear everything going on at church upstairs? And now you're talking like this to each other? So I really had a scope to notice like hypocrisy, and was quite disgusted with adults in my life, and was quite in love really with, call it God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. And I related to the scriptures and the songs and the language and the prayers that I grew up in without this taste of like the threat of damnation, which, okay, this is another piece. I went to an elementary school that was a Roman Catholic elementary school from grades 1 to 7. And on the premises of this school for a year or two before that, because the Montessori preschool that I went to and kindergarten that I went to was on the grounds of this Roman Catholic elementary school. So I was alongside like my classmates for those 7 years were, and in the classroom with them during religion class, which I think happened every day. I did get a flavor of, sin is bad and you're a sinner, and you need to do penance and confession. Funny, we didn't have confession in the Anglican Church, yet here I am, starting with confession. And yeah, the confession is almost like on the other side, is to say, actually, I like and have something going on inside me about this faith community that I was raised in, and then left, and was very judgmental and disdainful about. Yet still, there were many times in my, especially the first 17 years of being a mother, that with my children, especially, I was just looking for somewhere to take them where they would have community, where they would have villagers. And I often went to churches looking for that. Not always the particular faith denomination I was brought up in. For a while, I took my children to a Unitarian Universalist church, where I remember reading the kind of tenets of Universal Unitarianism and thinking, oh my gosh, I've been a Unitarian Universalist my whole life and I didn't know it. Because in Universal Unitarianism, they draw from all the faith traditions, um, and they just use use all the various scriptures as resources to become love in action. And really, this is why I have done so many other things in my life, is because really what I have wanted is to become love in action. And I would say, while I've been studying and using possibility management, I've started to use more often this term archiarchy or archon or archetypal. So I would add that, to become archetypal love in action. And this morning, after having had been at church yesterday, where there were a lot of people there, and a lot of people were there because some things were happening there that were, there was kind of a crossroads of a few different things happening. One was, we had a guest minister, and he preached the sermon. It was the Indigenous reconciliation service, because of today, Monday, being, at least in British Columbia, I'm not sure if it's federal or not, but a holiday for Indigenous reconciliation, or reconciliation between Indigenous and settler communities, and a day to honor the people the missing and murdered Indigenous women, and the children who were taken away from their families and taken to residential schools, some of whom survived, some of whom did not. And also yesterday was Michaelmas, the feast of Saint Michael, and the story of the archangel, Michael's clash with the dragon, which is like a pretty intense story, and it was also part of the season of creation, which is a multi-week chunk of the calendar. It's a multi-faith thing where there is a special focus on how we are to steward creation and how are we inherent to creation being what God made. So which reminds me of seeing on Facebook uh, a post by God who's got a Facebook profile saying, "What's your earliest memory? What's your earliest memory of a kind of event?" And God's own answer was the Big Bang, which I found humorous. In any case, in the wake of this all this fun activity on Sunday, where I was just like mind blown about the arcane structures, the arcane themes weaving through the the church time, including after church when a few extra things happened, in light of what had happened the day before, where I went to the diocesan office in Vancouver to join in a convergence that was really about the season of creation. I woke up this morning and I had the thought, wait, I'm going to say one more thing before I tell you what the thought was. Back in high school, when I was being a good girl and doing my schoolwork, getting good grades without really having to try, I was tested and designated as gifted, so I got to be part of this special class for a semester where we studied what we wanted to learn. And I wanted to learn about myself, and I wanted to learn about like being human. And there was a lot of I did a section on neurology and neuroplasticity and the human ability to learn and change and grow and, I would say, evolve. And this was during the time where I was living with this question, like, what am I going to do after high school? What am I going to be when I grow up? And I was at a complete loss. Nothing I saw on the menu appealed to me at all. Not that I really understood what any of it meant, or not what any of it meant, but what any of it would look like, practically speaking. I ended up taking an aptitude test that would kind of narrow down from my answers on the test, which would ask all kinds of questions about my knacks and my talents and my abilities and my disabilities and my aversions, and kind of give me a short list of what I might consider going into. And what I remember there being on the list were two things. One was the minister of a church. And I thought at the time, well, that's out because I don't belong to any faith community. I don't believe in any church. And then the other was a kindergarten music teacher. And I just thought, okay, well, that's stupid because I don't even play an instrument. And I don't want to be a teacher. Both of my parents are teachers. So I just was like, damn it, that didn't work. So back to this morning when I wake up and I suddenly think to myself, maybe I would go back to school and become a priest. Because if I did that, I could get a job, I could get paid to live in a community, go to a church every day, whenever I wanted. I would have this building that I could set stuff up in. And the people who were already affiliated with the church would come, they would hang out or not. They would give me feedback and coaching about how they thought it should go. And then the whole wider community beyond the kind of circle of the congregation could also be invited. And I could weave all of the distinctions, tools, maps, processes of possibility management that I have found empower my ability and capacity to evolve and transform, and offer these to other people so that we can actually get on with what I think is the purpose of all religions, but especially this leftist kind of sect of Christianity, which is to be love in action, to to steward creation, to, and as I say with my possibility manager box on, I say to take a stand for Gaia's risky human experiment to succeed. And for me, God and Gaia are really the same thing, or two aspects of the same thing. And wow, I could, I would become a voice in a diocese also. So I could bring this, you know, these possibilities to a bishop who might, invite me along to talk to other bishops and to talk to other clergy, and I could be in touch with this whole infrastructure of people where, admittedly, I do not like the hierarchical structure of it, except in that the ways that it's practical. It's like a communication, like, this person tells these people, who tells these people, who tells these people, who tells these people. I'm fine with that kind of pyramid scheme, more like a telephone tree. Mm, and anyone can start, so there's not really one person at the top of it, though there are people who are paid to do that job, so they have time to do that job. And I was, just before starting to record this, in a call with my dear friend Laura, my Gaian sister Laura, who has no inclination, or very little, to go into church buildings. And I let her know this, and I realized that it was the first time that I had ever out loud said that I've ever thought about this. On the day, of course, that I thought about it, maybe most clearly and with most percentage of my parts convinced that this would be something I would love to do. And we'd both been talking about what we were going to do after our call. And I gave her the possibility of making a video about some of the things she's been turned on about and on fire about. And I agreed that I would also make a video. And it's really from this place of sharing possibilities before I have kind of people who have come together to hear from me, and also to document. So this is my purpose here today, is to document this, to put my voice into the world where it may or may not be heard, and also to invite communication back at me about something about this bridging between the big-hearted, committed, like lovers of God and creation, and this arcane context, which is a cultural context, where the culture is really a culture where something else besides war becomes possible. Something else besides us and them, and we don't get along, so we fight. And whether that fight just burns bridges and makes people put up fences or walls or lock their doors, or say, I'm not going to talk to that person because they're not like me, or whether that war escalates to the point of bombs flying and people being actual survival being threatened, that yeah, that there could be a bridge so that Christians, at least some Christians at first, are empowered to really hold space for radical arcane love to be happening in their personal spaces, in the parts between their parts, and in between the people that they love, who so many Christians are really good people, and they keep up a kind of facade of being good people, which sometimes means that they're not open and honest when things aren't so good, and they often hide and cover up and isolate when they've done something that might be thought of as not good or not right. So, in these spaces that are empowered using the tools of possibility management, there's so much room to just put on the table what's really going on, what's happened, to have healing processes that empower us to just let go of the past finally, and to choose new ways of being and living and doing and not doing. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, what comes is just, I love making wishes for people, and this way of praying or blessing that I grew up in. Yeah, there's always been something about it that's not really worked for me, but there is this I get this impulse to wish you everything of the most extraordinarily archetypal love and loving relating. Like, may your lives become spaces where ever more radically responsible love is happening. Amen and alleluia. Thank you for hearing me, and I would love to hear from you back. If you have anything you want to share, I want to hear it.